Hey guys, another video. I wasn't planning on making this one, but I was studying how Messi takes his first, second, and third touches, depending on the situation. And I had a couple weeks break, no training, no games. But when I came back, I decided to try this because, I did train a little bit before I had that break. And I didn't expect it to work so well based on my observations and just remembering them. So to take you through my thought process, let me play this first clip. Before I do, you might have seen one of my previous videos called the flop touch. So it's essentially based like when like you have a defender in your back and he's uh, really like aggressive and pressing you one way. Maybe he sees the ball's going to land, say to your dominant foot. So you might open your hip and then flop your foot down and then take the ball there, and then his momentum carries that way. Especially since you kind of open your hip and like kind of almost like do a mini feint. So for a time, I kind of relied on that because a lot of the teams you're playing were quite aggressive in the press. But I don't know, maybe they adapted or for some reason stopped doing that because I just kept doing this like 10 times in a row and I would just look like a magician, even though it was almost like a one-trick pony. They just come one way, either my dominant foot or non-dominant, and I would just like flop and go the other way. But eventually they would catch on, like maybe they would just wait, and I would kind of sense they weren't going to press me hard. So, take a touch there, maybe open my body a bit, and then they would aggressively press. And then oftentimes I would either lose the ball or, be forced to like, uh, ha- to play back or actually what I see a lot of times in non-league is they play a lot more physical to I guess compensate for not too much flair. Is you say the ball's here and like your legs are like staggered like this, and your arms are out, and you're trying to like really like not lose the ball because uh, the coaches and your teammates don't appreciate it if you lose the ball too much, especially uh, cheaply or too many times. So that becomes the number one paranoid. You don't think about the flair and trying to like weave through, even though the defender might suddenly pounce and maybe even like try to push you away. But trying to study Messi, I'll take you through a couple of these scenarios. So the first scenario is, it's kind of simple. There's nobody really in close proximity to Messi. He takes a touch. Yeah, in my opinion, like, it doesn't really matter left foot or right foot, but you kind of do a slight look and then open your body. You see there's all the space. There's nobody aggressively pressing, and then he can just take a couple steps. So he takes 1, 2, 3, and then decides to make a pass. And sometimes, he just might continue dribbling forward. Here's another similar example. So, like before, I get the sense that, Messi, kind of how like uses peripheral. Sometimes you can kind of sense like if somebody's really like pressuring you um, one way, and then you can just do that flop touch and take it the other way. But in my opinion, Messi senses that that's not the case. So he takes a slight touch and does like almost a half turn. You see Messi looks at the defender there. So oftentimes I find if say that the defender like stays a bit closer and he decides to press, a lot of times it's like a lot of players don't have enough time, and they'll end up like losing the ball or get tackled. But we'll see in a bit how Messi can be a bit more dynamic in these scenarios. But in this case, after he takes his touch, he takes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 steps before taking his next touch and just taking the space. So here's where I really started to hone in on this and copy Messi in this scenario, and that's actually really what helped. So let me play the clip. So we saw like in the previous clip, like Messi's like on the half turn and does a touch, and then takes a couple steps before taking the next touch. But you see how Messi like comes over here, and then you kind of see he has like almost like a kind of sight to see like if there's immediate pressure, which there isn't. So continues to do that turn, but at this point, you can see, or in my experience, you can just get a sense that like the defender is going to pressure this way. So you see, after he takes touch with his left foot and he takes the step, what a lot of players do is, especially like with me, because I think, Messi predominantly uses his left foot. I don't need to use my right foot. But I find when he receives the ball, or at least takes the first couple touches, and depends what's convenient. He'll immediately touch with the next with his opposite foot without taking an extra step. So, once again, touches with the left foot, and then as he brings his left foot down, touches with the right foot. In this case, like kind of like with the inside of his foot to go this way. It really depends on the space. You're also shielding as well. So sometimes it's like with the inside of the foot, this way or that way, or with the outside of the foot, and then you can continue on. So after he takes a touch with the inside of the foot, it's still relatively close, and you see he feels still immediate pressure. The defender could be aggressive and try to reach around here. So after he takes a touch with his right foot, no extra step, just immediately with the left. Almost kind of like just a flop touch, down this way to go over. But the point is, he doesn't take extra steps. He can continue, just keeping close control of the ball. And here's another clip to illustrate this point. So you see, after Messi touches with his left foot here, Messi immediately goes and touches with the outside of his right foot over there. And again, it's just kind of common sense, but you kind of sense where the danger is and where the space is. So rather than as before taking a touch of the inside of his foot there, outside of the foot, and then again inside of the foot, just a little graze in the shield, and then not too sure, but it could be another touch. And just as a side note, I noticed Zidane often uses both feet without taking an extra step as he controls the ball. I was studying, how to not lose the ball and be a lot more progressive and forward thinking in terms of ball progression. I did look at Zidane, and that's one of the things I noticed before looking at Messi and then seeing the relationship between the two. You'll see often Zidane does, of course, that roulette move there, and I think that's just a testament how Zidane, uses his body as well as both feet without taking an extra step. So, just recognizes where the space and the press is coming, and then takes it there. And then, maybe I find a lot of times he often doesn't plan on doing the roulette, but depends on where the space is. But see where the two defenders are, kind of pressing him this way. He can just go there and also use his body as well. Another simple example is Zidane, just to finish the point, but a lot of people say Zidane's almost plays like he's in slow motion. So I find that it's just using both feet without taking an extra step to be efficient, based on where the space is and where the press is coming from. So touch with the left foot and then immediately touch with the right foot as he recognizes that space. Also, Zidane's a relatively big guy, so also uses his body to create a bit more space for himself without having to be very quick. So let's just watch the rest of the clip after he takes his touch with the right foot there, and step with the right foot. So there we go, and then you see immediately he touches with the inside of his left, inside with his right. He shields his body, touches again with his left. With the sole of his foot, all while not taking an extra step, mind you. And then he can continue going. So after he takes, in that case, does take an extra step, here he touches with the right, and then the left, and then the right again.